Hello guys, so let's now load all user related details on the user's gets page. Okay, we are now going back to our Xcode, and as the step number 1 is, we will go to the main storyboard and we need to declare an identifier for the segue. Okay, so what we will do is the main logic is very simple. So all of the details where we loaded, let's say on the search, in the search table view, we will pass all the details to our guest's view controller. Okay, so in order to access all of this and to pass it to the guest view controller via the segue, so we need to select the segue. We're going to the attributes inspector, and here I will write guest VC as the identifier. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, now we are heading to our guest VC, and we will create some variables which must catch the past data. Okay, here I will write vars to catch received or past data. Okay, so first of all it will be ID of the user, because based on his ID we will be loading the posts. Okay, var equals to ID equal var space ID equals integer. It will be initially empty integer. Then we've got the first name which we want to load. The first name, for example, var first name equals string. Then we have a last name, var last name equals string, opening close round bracket. Then we have a ava path to load, var ava path equals also empty string. Then we have got the cover path, var cover path equals empty string. Then we have the bio of the user which we want to load, var bio equals empty string as well. Okay, so we will now try to pass these values from the search cell, let's say, or anyone, let's say Jennifer. So we'll try from this cell, whatever got loaded, we'll try to pass to the guest view controller. Okay, so we are now going to the friends view controller. We'll just scroll to the bottom. Right here, I'll write a new function which will be prepare for segue. Prepare for segue. That is the one. This function executed before segue finishes. Okay. So do you remember we declared the identifier for the segue at the beginning of this video in the main storyboard? So we need to access this particular segue. If segue.identifier equals to the guest view controller, then do so and so. This will be the code in disclosures will be executed once we're going to the guest view controller. Executed once guest VC segue is executed. This means identifier. ID is declared on the main storyboard, in the main storyboard. Okay. Okay, very good. So here we now need to access the view controller in order to access the variables of the view controller. Okay, so I will write let guest VC equals to segue dot destination. As you see, it is view controller as guest view controller. Okay, access view controller we are heading to in order to access its variables. Okay, very good. So we then write guests VC, which is lowercase, dot ID. As you see now, we can access ID, we can access first name, we can access last name, etc., etc. But first, we need to get these details from the cell. Okay. So in order to do this, as we remember, we have the one variable array of the NS dictionaries users, which stores all the information to the user, even including the ID, date of birth, when this user has been created, etc., which we receive from the server. Okay, we now need, as you see, it is array of the users. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 users. So we need to tell to the Xcode when we select, for example, Bradley, to get all the information related to the user, which is under the index 0. As you remember, the index start from the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Or when we, let's say, click on the Jennifer, to get all the user information from the array of index 1. So this is what we need to tell the Xcode. Okay, so in other language, we need to get the index path of the cell. Okay, so I'll write guard let, because I'll show you how to access the index path of the selected cell. It's super easy. So we'll write guard let index path equals to search table view dot index path for selected row. So it means if we click on this, so it will retrieve the index path of this row or of this cell. Else return. Excellent. That here we are accessing index of selected cell in order to access index of users array. Okay, so here we will write let ID will be equals to users, then in the square brackets we are writing index path dot row, then again in the square brackets we want to access ID as being integer. So this is a new constant. With the name ID, it will go to the users. There are so many of them. Then it will go to the particular index, let's say 1 for Jennifer Lawrence, and it will get the ID of Jennifer Lawrence. So this is how does it work. So the same we'll do for the first name. Let first name equals to users. In the square brackets, index path dot row. Then in the square brackets again, first name. And we want to cast it as string, because string, this is a text variable, and on the guest VC first name it is of type string. Very good. So then we'll access last name. Let last name equals to users in the square brackets index path dot row. Then again in the square brackets will be last name, and we'll cast it as again as being a string. Beautiful. Then we have ava path and cover path. So let ava path equals to the users. In the square brackets we've got index path dot row. Then again in the square brackets we have just ava. This is how we are keeping it. We are throwing back this from the server as being a string. So then we have a cover path. Let cover path equals to the users in the square brackets index path dot row. Then again in the square brackets we will write cover as being the string. Very good. And the final and last one, we have a buyer. Let buyer equals to users in the square brackets. We're writing index path dot row. Then again in the square brackets, we will access the value under the key buyer, and we will convert it to being a string. Okay, very good. So these are the shortcuts prepared to send to guest view controller. Okay, here we will assign shortcuts to variables. Okay, so we write guests vc dot id equals id, our constant which we just right now created, and the same we're doing for the guests dot first name equals the first name. Then we write guests dot last name equals to the last name we've created now. Then guests vc dot ava path equals to the ava path. Then we have a guests vc dot cover path equals to cover path. Then we have a buyer guests vc dot buyer equals to the buyer which we have just now created. Okay, so this is the way to pass all of these information to the guest view controller. Okay, so we understood how does it work. And now we'll have to program the behavior in the guest view controller. Okay, so now all the information, whenever this guest VC is opened from the friends view controller, All these variables will store the information which we passed from the previous view controller. Now we need to write a logic to load all the user-related information here. Okay, to do this, we are having a function which we call func load user, opening close round brackets and open curly brackets. This function loads all user-related information. Okay, so first of all, I would like to work with the front end. Let's say if there is no Ava path, so I don't want even to send a request to the server trying to load this. I just want immediately to show this placeholder. Okay, so we will write if Ava path dot count is less than 10 characters, means the Ava 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is impossible to store everything in this URL. If it is less than, let's say, 10 characters, then we want to show the placeholder. So then we write ava image view dot image will be equals to UI image, open the round bracket, select the method named, and write user.png. Show placeholder if no proper URL to load ava, means if no ava, as per the entire logic. So the same we're doing for the cover. To load ava or cover. If cover path dot count it is less than 10 characters, then cover path dot image, cover image view dot image equals to UI image, open the round bracket, select the method named, will be equals to home cover dot jpeg. Very good. So this is the logic. Then we will work with the full name label, get full name, or just assign full name label dot text equals to, then we write, for example, first name dot capitalized plus 2 quotation marks, and we add a gap space, then again plus last name dot capitalized. Okay, like this. So first name capitalized, plus there is a gap between first name and last name, and then the last name, which is also capitalized. Okay, very good. Then we are going to the downloading images. What we can do here avapath.count, and we'll write here else statement. If it is more than this, then we'll download the image. So we will write helper, open and close round brackets. We already have this function written, download image from avapath, show in ava image view, or show user.png. The same we're doing for the cover in the else statement. If cover path, let's say, is more than 10 characters, then it will execute else statement. So we'll write here helper, open and close round bracket, then download image from cover path, show in cover image view, or show home cover.jpg, which is a placeholder. Beautiful. And the final one will be the bio label. Okay. So first of all, what I would like to do, guys, I would like now to build some logic, which Facebook has done, by the way. Let me search for someone. Let's say Bradley Cooper. Yeah, we need to call this function in view did load here. Right after configure ava image, I'll call load user. So we will now implement one feature which is implemented by the Facebook. Okay, let's search for any of the users. Bradley Cooper, here we go. So he has by the way, that's really amazing. Bradley Cooper, this is his profile picture, and that is his cover picture. Outstanding. And we need to place here the bio. What I want is, for example, Bradley Cooper is having the bio. Let's search for someone who doesn't have the bio. Jennifer Lawrence, she will have a buyer. Let's say, for example, Jackie, he doesn't have a buyer. So if there is no buyer, with the example of the home page, we'll show your add temporary buyer button. But when we go to guest, we cannot keep your button to add a buyer. So we want just simply remove the buyer and we want to resize our header. Okay, so to do this, we will have to create one more outlet connection. We're going to the main.serverboard, and we will make an outlet connection from the header view. Okay, so select your, that is the one, this is the view. Select your guest view controller. You can just navigate through the left panel. Select your guest view controller, table view. Then the table view is having a child view, which is a UI view. And that is the one which we need to resize. This is the view. Okay, so I will call assistant editor. Then here I'll make hold Ctrl Left mouse click, drag it here right at the top. It doesn't matter where, but just I want to keep the order. So that will be header view. Brilliant. So this is the view which we will be resizing right away. Okay, we're now going back to our guest view controller, and we'll write here a one logic manipulate or assign buyer and manipulate the height of header view, for example. Okay guys, so we'll go with a little bit easier way. So rather than writing this here, first of all we'll assign buyer label, where we'll assign buyer to the buyer label. Buyer label.text will be equals to buyer. Even though the buyer will be empty, it will just show the empty string. And then if buyer is empty, then we'll want to resize our header. So here we'll write header view.frame.size.height, deduct from it, let's say 40 pixels. In my case, the height of the main of the buyer label in the main storyboard, it is 35 pixels. It is 35 pixels, so I'll deduct 40 pixels because 5 pixels we'll use as like additional deduction. We're going to Nicole Kidman. Here we go. Now it looks brilliant now. So for the Bradley Cooper, everything is fine. For Jackie Chan, everything is fine. For Samuel L. Jackson, also everything is fine. And for Nicole Kidman, it just resized because she has no buyer. So that is it. That is amazing. So we learned now how to receive the information passed to the guest view controller, and we will now load the posts of the users. Let's go and do this right now.